Hello everybody, I'm Victoria, and as one of the organisers I'd just also like to thank you for coming out, and I'd like to thank the people who are giving us tech support this evening as well. So I volunteered to do a talk on Ada Lovelace. I knew very little about her. I'm hoping you knew very little about her as well, otherwise you'll know more than me. But I've spent the last few days doing a bit of research. I hope it'll be interesting, but do correct me if I say anything wrong. So I thought just let's do 5 things about Ada Lovelace. And the first thing, if we come away with anything, it's why is she famous? So I suspect most of us in this room know why, but I just wanted to go through it again. She's known as the first computer programmer. Now that's not the first woman computer programmer, it is the first computer programmer. And she's given that accolade for work she did with the mathematician Charles Babbage. He was working on something called an analytical engine. She helped him throughout while she was in her 20s, and she wrote some notes for him on a translation of a talk he did. And in those notes she wrote algorithms, and those algorithms contain the first computer program. So she's considered the first person to write and publish a set of instructions that a computer could follow to produce a result that couldn't be foreseen. And that's her accolade. There's not a straight line between her and Alan Turing and computers, but she is credited by people. When they look back at her work, they can say that is the first written and published computer program. So well done, Ada. But the second thing that sort of drew me to her when I looked a bit more was that her father was Lord Byron. So I'd known about her a bit. There's a blue plaque for her in London. There's an Ada Lovelace meeting room in the BBC. But I was like, blimey, her dad was Lord Byron. Like, it really, really surprised me. And it was a very tempestuous background. She only knew her father for the first month of her life. Her parents then split up, and she actually never saw him again. He died in Greece a few years later, and she was 20 before her mother let her see a portrait of her father. So, as you can gather from that, her mum took the breakup pretty badly. Her mum was called Annabella. She was Baroness Wentworth, and she was a well-known brain. She was quite, she was a maths whiz. Byron called her his princess of parallelograms. And she encouraged her daughter's education in science and math, thinking that would keep her on the straight and narrow. And she was actually quite worried about insanity. Byron may have been sort of slipping into insanity when they were together, and she really wanted to pull Ada back from that and encourage her mathematical science tendencies rather than poetic and, and the sort of madness that she saw in Byron. So Ada's talent actually seems to me, as a novice, to be a mixture between the poetic and the scientific. Babbage called her his enchantress in numbers, and she wrote something very beautiful about seeing these connections in things that were like fairies dancing when you got into higher maths. Very beautiful. And she's also credited with seeing more than Babbage and his contemporaries the future of computing. She saw they could crunch not just numbers, but any logical sequence, so it could work on music, it could work on graphics. So really, people say she had that wider vision, and it's a concept she'd obviously thought quite a lot about. Just quickly, within my few minutes left, her life, that's sort of like the Facebook thing, it's complicated. I mean, goodness me, she's a bit of a tragic heroine. She died at the age of 36 of cancer. She had 3 children. I don't know much about them, but she obviously left them behind. Strangely, her father also died at the age of 36, and she asked to be buried next to him, and they're buried together in a church in Nottinghamshire. But before that, towards the end of her life, she ran up some huge gambling debts. She was seemingly quite clearly having an affair. The person she had an affair with, it was arranged that he would burn all their letters. Possibly some sort of payment was made or legal settlement. She said something on her deathbed to her husband that meant he disappeared and they never saw each other again. You know, there are lots of quite tragic things in her life, but I didn't get the sense that she was unhappy during her life. She had lots of friends and acquaintances. She was acquaintances with Darwin, Faraday, and very sort of friendly, outgoing person and moved in society. So finally, Ada's legacy. If you wanted to find out more, there's a really wonderful sort of graphic novel online by Sidney Padua, and this one is Ada must be saved from becoming poetical. Only one thing can subdue poetry: mathematics. And then Chris Riddell, who's the children's author. Sorry, I might have lost that one. who's a children's author. He did the Otterline series. He illustrated a Times Literary Review that reviewed her book and was drawn to her. And he's now got a series called, oh goodness me, it's Goth Girl, and she's Ada Goth, and her dad is Lord Goth. So I thought that was a lovely little representation of somebody who loves maths and science and I suppose goes out fighting evil. As I said, she's got a blue plaque to her, and there's a programming language called Ada used by the American Department of Defense. So, and a new biography out by someone called James Essinger. I hope I've prompted you to find out more about her. I certainly will continue my research. Thank you very much for listening.